एकम् अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम्। हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् अहम् साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यथो नाहं तत्तत भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भाव कोऽहं भावयुत कुतो वरधिये दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, it has been our practice to select two verses randomly from the work Guru Vachaka Kove. The work is authored by Muruganar Swamigal. The random selection is done by Revatima. We read each of these verses, and each verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that is followed by the practice of Atma Vicharam for about 15 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditating on meaning, and practice of self-enquiry, there will be summing up remarks by Ujwal ji today, and that will be followed by the offering of Sri Ramana Stotram chanting. Hopefully, we'll be joined by Vaibhavji and Prarthama. Otherwise, one of us will do the chanting. The rest of us can practice self-enquiry as to who is the listener of the chanting. We begin the satsang by taking the first verse selected for us verse number 784. Verse number 784 of Guru Vachaka Kovai. Until the consciousness that fills the heart, the core, is experienced, the consciousness that operates through the five senses will not subside even a little. Until the bewitching delusion, the five sense consciousness, is completely extinguished, the authentic consciousness that yields bliss will not be attained. An apparent conundrum is being presented. Apparent because both the sides get dissolved in the self. What is said here is very important because it does not give us the root problem, but it talks about the manifestation of the problem and makes it clear that the senses have to be turned inward. One mistake that the neo-Advaitins can make, those who are newly into Advaita Marga can make, is that they'll feel that all your great attractions to the world can continue in jnana. That is being clarified in this verse, that the worldly attraction, taking our skin and senses to be real, have to subside in the self. So the tradition that you have to turn the senses inward will be completed by the presence in the self. How it is put in this verse is, until the consciousness that fills the heart. In the heart, the consciousness fills without any second. It is filling the heart self-luminously as I. Until that self-luminous I is experienced, the consciousness that operates through the five senses will not subside even a little. Why this kind of condemnation and pointing is made? That we may feel so much of us has improved, that nowadays we are managing with 2 chapatis, and we see somebody who is eating heavily. All these people still have not controlled their senses. Somebody who has roving eyes, we see, and our eyes are relatively more fixed, we feel that person is more attached to the world. Now, this kind of comparative thinking will not subside till the undivided consciousness is reached. Even if we gain some higher intellectual levels, let us say the mind has become quieter, the intellect has become quieter, you won't experience thought-free state, you will come and make a fuss about it in the sensory world. See, I am such a great guy. You will try to project. Where we will project? In the sensory world. And we have to understand that this one consciousness dividing itself as five itself is false. That there are pancha jnanendriyas, that itself is a false step. Then all that is revealed by the pancha jnanendriyas are all false. That there are so many sensory objects, so many sensory people there, is a false information. And that falsity will end completely only when you experience the spurana. And the other side, the spurana can clearly be experienced only when all your attachments in the pancha jnanendriya kshetra, and that you can achieve something through the karmendriyas, is completely dissolved in the self-knowledge. So that is why the verse covers both the aspects, that till the five senses are turned inward, ஐம்புலக்கள்வர் அகத்தினில் புகும்போது அகத்தில் நீ இலையோ அருணாச்சலா, ஒருவனா முன்னை ஒளித்தவர் வருவார் உன்சுதே இது அருணாச்சலா. In Bhakti Marga, Bhagavan talks to Arunachala that when the five thieves enter into my I thought, were you not there present in the heart as the fullness of consciousness and covering you, the one which is covering the whole of creation? How can any of these thieves come? So you are the one who is responsible for this Maya. I will surrender to you, is the Bhakti Marga sadhana. But there also the Panchendriyas have to be overcome by surrendering to the one Arunachala. Here in Jnana Marga, the responsibility is taken by the sadhaka, and Arunachala is treated as the Mayaham, the true self, the I present inward, and one has to dissolve the 5 divisions of sensory experience in that oneness, and that oneness cannot be experienced fully without completely absorbing all the 5 into one. So whenever the 5 senses bring in data, as though hearing is separate, seeing is separate, tasting is separate, smelling is separate, touching is separate, any one data comes, we should understand this is the one consciousness divided as 5, sensing the world, and draw it back. For whom is this outward turned sense? For whom is this touch? For whom is this seeing? For me, who am I? And once this Purana is experienced completely, there is no way you will get enamored in this display, this cinema show, the 3-dimensional picture revealed by the senses. Let us sit in the practice of turning inward from the senses, turning inward from the mind, and taking the I thought to its source in the practice of Atma Vicharam for the next 15 minutes or so. We will request Ujwal ji to set the time for us. Namo Ramana.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking the second verse selected for us. Verse number 869. Verse number 869. The greatness of seeing. To attribute the property of knowing an alien object to the preeminent self, the undivided sun that abides in itself, shining as the space of consciousness, is merely the imagination of those who only know alien objects and not consciousness. Why? Because in the self, which is unmoving, Maya, the dark void, does not exist. The self is without a second. The greatness of seeing, to attribute the property of knowing or seeing an alien object to the preeminent self, the undivided sun that abides in itself, shining as the space of consciousness, is merely the imagination of those who know alien objects and not consciousness. So someone will say that the jnani who is abiding as the self sees another, that is, treats another person as really another, that I am somehow saved. The ones I am facing or the one I am facing is really in trouble, filled with ajnana or troubled by maya. Can't be like that, says Bhagwan, that the knowledge of the jnani cannot be the act of knowing or seeing another. Why? Because in the self, which is unmoving, Maya, the dark void, does not exist. So, the whole area of the other arises out of self-ignorance, or it is said to imaginarily arise out of self-ignorance. That self-ignorance applied universally is Maya. As far as the individual is concerned, we call it as ignorance. But then at the root of it, the first rise of the I, ego sense, is what we call as Maya. Bhagavan says in Ulladu Narpadu that this Chijjada Granthi itself is Maya. That there is nothing called samsara out there. The samsara is within each one of us. See, there is the simple presentation in science where the higher dimensions are said to be inside us. The outside of us is only the three-dimensional world. So therefore the senses, that means perception of the three-dimensional world, emotions, thoughts, intellect, persona, all these are higher dimensions present inside us, and all these higher dimensions are, and the world that we see, the senses, are permeated by the self-ignorance, not knowing the Atma-swarupa. And the jnani is one who is identified, who is saying sayujya with the Atma-swarupa, with the Spurana. There is no way such a one can separate others from him, others from himself. He can be called as jnani only if is abiding in that self-luminous self, where there is no second. Tannai andri anniyam ondrum mariyar. Who is a jnani apart from the self doesn't know anything other than the self. If he knows anything other than the self, says I am acting so that the other non-self can be uplifted, then that is ajnana. The only duty the jnani has is to abide as the self. Bhagavan is asked once by one of his so-called close devotees, that don't you get this feeling sometimes that you have to come and awaken all of us? And Bhagavan says that, will you, when you have gone to sleep, and in that sleep you have dreamt that there are 1,000 people sleeping, and you have awakened from that dream and awakened from your sleep, will you now want to go back into your dream and wake up those 1,000 people? That means, what is the jnani's job? He sees, let us say, some people doing self-enquiry. He should know that that is not the truth. That he should inquire, this is arising out of self-ignorance. For whom is this? And abide in this Purana, where these 7 people doing self-enquiry are all now merged in the reality. The reality is that there is only the Spurana. How does this come into existence? Then, if somebody asks how it comes into existence, then Maya needs to be proposed. But the Jnani himself does not need the explanation of Maya. That all these came into existence out of Maya, there is no need for the Jnani to tell like that. He has to ask, for whom is this feeling that 6 people are doing self-enquiry? In fact, that asking will not be required, because just like any other practice, initially will have to be done with effort. You will have to put effort to drive your car. You will have to put effort to learn a language. You will have to put effort to see that you are talking properly to children or to the world truthfully. But then, at some point of practice, the speaking truth will become natural. Similarly, the abiding in the self has to be deliberately done with the effort, and the dawn of jnana, the same abiding in the self, which was done previously with effort, with remembrance, is now done effortlessly, and that is called sahaja samadhi or sahaja nishta, where it is our nature. Just like the water droplet rises from the ocean and returns to the ocean, it will return to the ocean. Similarly, all these apparently different things will come back to the ocean. So the jnani's state is to be the ocean, that's all. And there is not even the necessity, hey, you are having faith in God, so you will be saved. You are not having faith in God, so you will not be saved. No such distinction even about Ishvara's presence is made, because whether they believe or not, each droplet is going to come into the self. Even this explanation, that each droplet will naturally come to the self, is dropped in self-abidance. And that is what we are going to practice for the next 15 minutes or so. And that is what is our nature. Now, what is with practice? With effort, letting go of thought, asking who am I, and holding the I. This effort will go the moment all the proclivities are erased, and the result, Bhagavan says, is the undivided self, not the feeling that I have now got mukti, all the other people are struck. That is not the place where one has to rest. If one has such a feeling, then one has to inquire further, who feels I am separately liberated, all the others are still wallowing. For whom is this thought? Then the underlying substrate, the underlying self-luminous self, is alone the reality here and now. Let us sit in practice for the next 15 minutes. Ujwalji, you can set the time for us. Namo Ramana, sir. Namo Ramana. May I request Ujwal ji to give us the summing up remarks.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. In today's verse, which Nandakumarji was meditating, Bhagavan had told that the consciousness which is one, when it gets dissipated through these five senses, then one cannot understand the presence of that one consciousness. For the children's songs which we have, we tell them that it is only by that consciousness we are able to understand that we have two eyes. Ramana says God's power in the heart makes me know I have two eyes, and this power makes me know that I see with my eyes. So it is only by that power of that consciousness, the power which is there within, which is our core, which fills our heart, we are able to see, we are able to hear, we are able to smell, we are able to taste and feel. But until we are all the consciousness, the power of attention is outward turned, we can't understand the presence of the consciousness. Only when we turn the attention back to the self, back to the heart, then alone we can experience that consciousness. When Bhagavan in Aksharamala says, Aimpula kalvar ahattinil pugumbodu ahattil ni illayo Arunachala. When we are caught up in these, the robbers are robbing us away from our own true treasure. Are you not there inside the heart as the consciousness Arunachala, as Bhagavan Ramana? And this reminds me of a story which it is mentioned in the talks, where there is robbery at Ramanashramam. The robbers, thinking that there is a lot of wealth at Ramanashramam, they all come and attack the ashram, and they find out that there is nothing in the ashram. Ramana says, we are sadhus, we don't have any money. But the robbers are so frustrated, so they hit one on Ramana's thighs, and Ramana, although in great pain, he shows the other thigh and says, if you want to hit this thigh, if you are not satisfied, please hit the other thigh also, other leg also. And such was the karuna of Ramana. And when the devotees told Ramana, we are going to catch those robbers and give them to the police, Ramana showed compassion to even those robbers and told, they are misguided men. They do not know what is right and what is wrong. But we are sadhus. So we should not leave our dharma of showing compassion to everyone. So we should hold on to it. And when Kunju Swami, the next day, when the police came to ask, Ramana never gave any complaint. He just ignored it. They did nice puja to the Swami, so he said, and sent the police away. And Kunju Swami asked, Bhagavan, you are there here. When you are there, how can there be robbers in Ramanashramam? And Ramana said, even in the time of Ramayana, they were great jnanis. They were jnanis like Vasishta and Vishwamitra. Vasishta, who had the divine cow Nandini with him. Nandini is a wish-fulfilling cow. The great jnanis, their heart itself is the wish-fulfilling cow. It can fulfill all the desires. And there was Vishwamitra, who could create a duplicate Swarga for Trishanku. So they were all such great jnanis with great powers. And if they had decided to kill Ravana and Kumbhakarna and others, they would have done it very, very easily, without any effort. But they never interfered in the divine plan. They allowed everything to go as it is, because they had understood that the most important thing is that consciousness which alone is. And everything else is only the Maya. It is only an appearance. Just like how different movie scenes appears on the screen. There are some good characters and there are some bad characters. There is the scene where there is fire and there is assault and violence, and there are some scenes which are beautiful. But the truth is that none of those scenes are real. They're only the play of light. And this is happening in that dark room where the light is playing. We see different images and we keep telling this is right, that is wrong, that should happen like this should happen like this. But the jnanis who just see the light, who does not see the appearances, who see the light, they do not complain about anything. When devotees came to Bhagavan and told, Bhagavan, that person is not behaving properly, you have to tell something to that person. And Ramana used to say, I am not here to correct anyone. I am here to correct myself. And what is the correction that we need to do? The only correction is to turn our attention back to our heart, where the consciousness is. And that consciousness is pure light. When there is pure light, there is no differences. There is no big and small. There is no right and wrong. There is only light. Just like when the movie ends, although there is this credits being played on the screen, the lights are switched on so that the audience can exit. So when the bright lights are switched on, the images on the screen becomes blurred. And if there is very, very bright light, then the images are not at all seen. So the jnanis who have seen that bright light of consciousness, they cease to see the differences. They cease to see the alien objects. They only see that consciousness which is pure light. And Ramana is telling us, until our attention is turned outwards, we can't understand the presence of that light. So he says, with effort, in the Dhyana Pata, Sadhom Swami says, Kannai moodi amarந்து கொள் கடவுள் என்று நினைந்து கொள் எண்ணிடாமல் எதையுமே இறைவன் ஒன்றே நினைந்து கொள். Don't think anything else. Only think about that God's power, that consciousness within, with effort. And once we have the taste, the experience of that consciousness, then we see everything as manifestation of that very same consciousness. To teach us this, Ramana has come into our lives. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana sir. May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to take up the chapter Sri Ramana Stotram. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. ॐ महासेन महोसेन जाताय नमः. ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः. ॐ गुरवे नमः. ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः. ॐ महोजसे नमः. ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः. ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः. ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः. ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः. ॐ सुन्दरार्य तपःफलाय नमः. ॐ कमनीय सुचारित्राय नमः. ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः. ॐ शोभनाचल मोहलीनमानसाय नमः. ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः. ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः. ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः. ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः. ॐ तीव्राय नमः. ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः. ॐ हिन्दुमौक्तिना पितृमते नमः. ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः. ॐ तपोमयाय नमः. ॐ उदासीनाय नमः. ॐ महायोगिने नमः. ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः. ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकास्थितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ च्यूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ शून्यताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विरार्धचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराज्ये नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोर्णाचलरिद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सदर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानामाराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋचान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रिशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रह सुप्रवाह विवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः ऋन्निष्ठस्वगभीर नित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासे कराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नमैदं लोकोत्तर ज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana Pratna Ma. Namo Ramana to Pratna Ma's grandmother. Namo Ramana Ujwal ji. Namo Ramana to all.
नमो